Hello, everybody. Happy Friday to you. I'm so excited to be back with you today for another powerful episode of the Breakthrough Show. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and I'm thrilled to have you here today as we dive into a topic that has the power to transform the way we connect, communicate, and create impact in the virtual world. We've all been there, right? We're sitting through a webinar, presentation, virtual event that feels more like a chore than the opportunity for growth. We start checking our phones, we're zoning out, or wondering if the Wi Fi accidentally going out might be a blessing in disguise. But what if we told you that webinars don't have to be boring? What if virtual events could actually be engaging, interactive, and even game changing for your business? That's exactly why I'm so excited to welcome back a previous guest of the Breakthrough Show here to the show. He is someone who knows how to create impact. He first joined us back in season 5, and since then, he's had some incredible breakthroughs in his own journey. He's taken his wealth of experience in sales, solution design, and financial strategy and shifted his focus to something every presenter, business owner, and coach needs to master. Everybody know what word I'm thinking of here? Engagement. Engagement. So important. Today, he's on a mission to transform boring, forgettable webinars into high energy, interactive experiences that captivate audiences, drive sales, and boost confidence. His work with engaging webinars is proving that virtual events can be more than just a slideshow with a voiceover. They can be an experience that move people to action. So today we're going to talk about why engagement matters, the biggest mistakes people make when running webinars and virtual events, and how you can level up your speaking, coaching, and presenting skills to truly connect with your audience. If you're a coach, speaker, or business owner, or someone who hosts virtual events, this episode is definitely for you. It's time to take your virtual presence to the next level. So please put your hands together and welcome back to the show, Jeff Brandeis. Welcome back, Jeff. I'm so excited to have you back. I know we're going to have a great conversation today.
Thank you, Jessica. It's so great to be back. It's great seeing you again, and looking forward to our conversation today.
Yes. And it's always fun for me to have people back because I think sometimes we get this idea that we have to pick one thing to do, one thing that we want to focus on, and that's what we're going to do forever and ever until we die. And that's it. And I think that it's good to revisit these things that we're passionate about and go, wait a minute, maybe things need to shift a little bit here and that we can still be successful when we try something new. So I'm really excited to dive in a little bit to your journey, what you've been up to, and all of that. But as we get started today, let's just clear the air. Let's think of something joyful. What is something that's bringing you joy today, Jeff?
Actually, just being here, first of all, bringing me some joy. The fact that we're back together again is great. It's a sunny day. I'm getting to speak to your audience, and that's a blessing in disguise as well. So there's so many things to be thankful for. Just being here, living our lives together is just really a great thing to be. So I'm healthy. And it's great to be sharing some of the things that I've experienced with others here today as well.
Awesome. I was just talking about that earlier, actually, about how bringing it back to a space of gratitude, even if we're having a tough day, or a tough week, whatever it's been, that bringing it back to a space of gratitude, I think is helpful and can help us get us back on track. So that's awesome.
For sure.
Have you had any big personal or we'll start with the personal one. Any big personal breakthroughs since the last time you've been on the show, Jeff?
So from a business perspective or from a personal perspective?
We'll start with the personal perspective. Any new epiphanies that you've had since you've been on the show last?
Well, let's see. I think we have a new grandson, so that's a great epiphany to have happen in life. It's a blessing in disguise to have grandchildren to be part of your life. And then obviously as your children get older, seeing them have children make you feel older. But it's definitely was an epiphany. And I think the other side of this kind of brings me into the business world is where, you know, I grew up in the corporate world, and I was last time I was on the show, I was doing financial things, and you kind of go through, and you kind of alluded to this earlier, is being passionate about something, how you want to reinvent yourself. And for me, it's what I want to be when I grow up again, because I think we all go through our trials and tribulations of life, and truly to discover that true passion. And that was the biggest epiphany, I think, at this point, to find this passion that I really love doing what we're going to talk about. And I'm excited to talk about it. So
what was it exactly that inspired you to shift from financial strategy, sales leadership into the world of webinars? Was there something like specifically that happened, or was it something you were always interested in?
Well, you kind of alluded to this in the opening, is we're all on webinars these days, and 99% of them, they're all the same. Forget about the person, forget about the product, forget about everything else. They all start with, "Hi, I'm Jeff, welcome to my webinar. Can everyone hear me?" Yeah, just, put in the chat or raise your hand. "Can you hear me?" "Okay, great." And that's good. Then "Where are you from?" Put into chat where you're from. And then the next thing is, "I'm going to share my slide. Let me know if you can see my slide," right? And then that's the end of engagement. That's the end of, really total involvement. Every once in a while, you get someone that does ask a question, but, can enter into chat, is this something that resonates? Yes or no? Okay, but there's no meaningful dialogue at that point. And once you share that slide, you become what I like to call another Hollywood square. Okay, those of you who are Hollywood squares, okay, you go off screen and you become just like everybody else. You just join the crowd. So that was kind of I was on so many of those. I watched some really great presentations from people who can kind of hold an audience, but I was some others that would sit down, they would put their hand on their chin, and they would talk, and and I just said, there's got to be, no one's doing this. No one's training people on Zoom. No one teaching best practices. There's no presentation coaching, and there's got to be a better way to interact with your audience.
Right.
Thus, engaging webinars.
Yeah, it's I think so many of us start doing what we do because we go and experience the things that we end up doing like earlier on in our lives, and then maybe it's not a good experience, and we say, well, something's got to give here to make this better for people. One of the things I wanted to share is that our audience knows that we also have shifted a little bit, which I just thought this was the greatest thing when you and I reconnected, because we've been also focused on engagement in a very different way, not having to do with webinars, but also focused on engagement. And I think it's so important. We're in this world right now where we are just inundated with information 24/7 on social media. And so I think there's a lot of this like throwing information at people, but then what happens afterwards? We're not really nurturing each other. We're not nurturing the client. We're not having deeper conversations. And so I think what you're doing is so important and so timely for right now. We're going to take a super quick break. And when we come back, we're going to dive into engaging webinars. We're going to ask Jeff all kinds of questions. And if you have questions, put them in the chat and we'll be sure to ask those as well. So we'll be right back after this.
Breakthroughs are about more than you might think. They're about discovering who you are, digging deep, reaching to the core of your soul. They're about healing yourself, understanding your beliefs, creating a ripple effect. And it's not just those initial moments that matter. It's about using them to bring more joy into our own lives and the lives of others. It's about having fun, letting loose, enjoying every moment life has to offer. It's about finding a safe space. It's about creating connection. Join us each and every day for exclusive programming, special events, and a community to call home, where we invite you to explore, change the way you look at and live your life, and go beyond the breakthrough. So we ask you, are you ready? We'll see you online at thebreakthroughshow.com.
Welcome back to The Breakthrough Show. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and we're here today with returning guest, Jeff Brandeis of Engaging Webinars. We're talking about why engagement matters today, and it's something that we're really passionate about here on the Breakthrough Show Network as well. And I'm super excited to be talking with Jeff about this today. We're going to start out with a big question. What do you think is the biggest mistake that you see people make when they're hosting webinars?
The biggest,
Yeah.
you tend to think you present, you talk, and you're off screen and you stay on that slide for 10 minutes and you're talking. And, it's in today's age where you can pick up this phone that's sitting right in front of you. It's so easy when you're not engaging, you're lecturing to people, you're not getting them involved in something, and you're on that same slide for 10 minutes just talking. So that to me is one of the biggest mistakes that people make today is, or they put, or they're reading to their audience that what's on the slide. Okay, people can read, trust me.
Good to know. We're learning new things here today, everybody. Yeah, I mean, they're reading the exact same thing that's on the slide, and it's kind of like, I mean, I guess it serves a purpose in the idea that we are different types of learners, right? Some of us are audio learners, video learners, whatever, right. Visual, all of that. So it serves that purpose, but I will fully admit that I got caught up in years ago when I was doing webinars, got caught up in that sort of format where like you have slides and you have your slides and you read them and you ask people a question, and I never got a whole lot of engagement. Even if I had a full house attending, it was like, and I think people even then years ago were burnt out by like, just answer the question in the chat and then we move on to the next slide.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of a PowerPoint slide or a Canvas slide, in my mind, is you have a bullet. You have a bullet of what you want to talk about, and as you want to go through your next bullet, you unveil it. So you don't throw the whole slide or 5 points up on the slide where everybody can just read everything. We want to go bullet by bullet by bullet. And if you do have a question, one of the things that we do with Engaging Webinars is you can ask the question, but you can actually pull it right up on the screen. So it is more visual, just like we were talking about before. So people are hearing the question, they see the question, and then what you can do is you can go in, okay, hey folks, answer the question in chat, A, B, or C, or D, and we can actually then show the results of A, B, C, and D on the screen. And so the presenter now understands holistically what their audience's makeup is about, okay? So one of the questions I ask, for example, is how many webinars do you do on a monthly basis? So A is 1 to 10, and then you have your 4 things. So if I got a bigger audience that goes to more than 40 webinars, my presentation is going to shift a little bit versus a 1 to 5. But I see those percentages on screen, and so does everyone else. It's not just that they're all in chat, but so we're accumulating the answers, we're showing the percentages, and it's just more meaningful for people to see everything, on screen.
Now, I imagine that this is a similar question that I get when I answer questions about doing shows and things like that, where it's like, well, I don't know how. I'm not an actor, I'm not a presenter. I don't know how I would just shift like that and just change if something happens on a whim. People ask me that all the time. Well, what if the guest doesn't show up, and what if, the question goes a different way than you thought it was going to go? Like, I wouldn't be able to just make that up. So what do you say to people like that who are like, I don't know if I could do something like that. I have to have like word for word what to read and then I'm done.
See, that's one of the other bigger mistakes in life
Mm,
from a presenter perspective. Okay,
yeah.
you're giving the information you think that people want to hear.
Hmm.
Okay, so I mean, if we were having a conversation, if we met at the bar, for example, Jessica, and I asked you a question and I had no clue what that answer was going to be, I either adapt my conversation to you, okay, because some reason with I got attracted to you, we struck up a conversation, and I wanted to continue the conversation. If it
Hmm.
was something I wanted to discuss and you didn't like the question, then either you walk away and say thanks, I'm sorry, not interested, okay, or I adapt to the audience. And sometimes you get a question from the audience that you don't want to talk about.
Hmm.
Okay. So one of the things that we do is we train you on how to, pardon the expression, talk that question. Say, hey, Jessica, that's a great question. Okay. If time allows, I'll like to answer it when we get back at the end of the webinar, I mean. And if not, can I speak with you on a one-to-one basis and I'll answer your question. So I want to be able to get through the material that everyone else is also here for. So if you're uncomfortable with the question or the responses, it's learning how to handle that. People are here to listen to you. You're the moderator. You're the conductor. You're the maestro. Okay, you're in control. So stay in control.
Yeah. I think that's a great point about how we do that. We adjust in the wild, right? In everyday life. We're out and about and somebody asks a question to us. We're not prepared really for that either. And so I think that's a great reminder for people who might feel those nerves about doing a presentation that might need to shift, or hosting a show that things might not go the way that they want it to go. You know, how do you think that lack of engagement impacts people's sales and things like that, like in terms of a webinar? Okay, like say you have, like I said, full house. If you weren't engaging with the people that attend properly, how does that directly impact your sales? Does it really matter to engage with people in a deeper
Oh,
way?
yeah, it does. It matters tremendously. An engaged audience will convert at a higher rate.
Mm,
And I talk to a lot of presenters these days, and one of the questions I do ask, so what's your conversion rate from people who are attending to whatever your call to action is at the end of the webinar? Okay. And sometimes, I mean, they don't stay on, they're not here when it's barely, it's not even 5%. So that obviously is an indication that you're not engaging your audience. You might have great topic, you might have a great presentation, and it could be, the most powerful speech or presentation in the world. But
mm,
this isn't, with all due respect, a TED talk where we're just presenting. It's not a keynote where you're presenting to everybody out there.
right.
You're trying to get people from where they are today to someplace else, which
Mm,
is usually into your call to action. So if you're not engaging that audience quickly, I might add, within that first
right.
5 minutes, okay, they're going to pick up the phone or they're going to turn the camera off,
Yeah.
and you lost them.
Right. Right. I want to, let's talk about the beginning at the start of a webinar really quickly. I had attended the last one that I attended. I got a little bit turned off, I'm going to be honest with you, because the very first thing that they said was, I want everybody to turn off their phones right now. I want you to just turn off your phone, and like giving all of these instructions of what I have to do as a listener, when I could be taking notes on my phone, like on the little notepad. I could be using it for something, but I just felt really turned off. Do you think that in the start of the webinar, is that effective to just tell your attendees what to do? Or like how do you feel, like what is your idea of engagement as a webinar begins?
So engagement is obviously the first 5 minutes of the webinar is key. And personally, no, I would not tell anyone, I need you to do this and do it that way. There are ways, I mean, and one of my favorite expressions is not what you say, is how you say it, right? There are different ways you could say the same thing. Hey, I would really appreciate you folks if you kind of, provide your full attention to me, because I know we got action-packed, great value. And if you could just, ignore that phone for a little while, I would really greatly appreciate it. Okay. One of the things I try to do, and we have some animation in our program, is hey, I'd love to have all of you turn your cameras on. I'd love to be able to see your face so we can interact with each other. And in case you don't know how to do that in Zoom, I have a little video clip that's going to pop up right there on the bottom. You click on the camera and everybody sees it, and I'm visualizing it. And it's the first part of earning trust with your audience, is really, because at the end of the day, what we're talking about, engagement earns trust, and trust is what people will buy from, because they learn from you, they like you, they trust you, right? So if you're not earning that trust up front and coming out with something very demanding, I'll call it, that's just going to put up the red flag or a barrier. So build that trust early.
Right. Speaking of trust, it's interesting because we've been sort of bombarded with a lot of things outside of us, especially in the last couple of years. I feel like really, I mean, if I think back around when COVID first started, and then getting into political seasons and things like that, and I think there's a lot of times a challenge for people in finding that harmony between being their authentic self, and like, where is the line on like sharing opinions, and how much to share in online in general, but then also in presentations and things like that. How can people, business owners, coaches, speakers, infuse their personality and authenticity into their webinars without necessarily crossing that line into the stuff that's outside of the point of the webinar?
I talk about things that I've experienced as a presenter, bringing things. Hey, I've been in your shoes before. I was an accountant in my prior life, right? Forget about doing a presentation in front of 500 people, all right, or getting on Zoom. I was a quiet, typical accountant, right, that hardly spoke to anybody. I'd stand in the corner at parties and wait for someone to come over to me, or if I saw someone I knew, then I would go over and talk to them. But nowadays I'm more open to speaking to a stranger, asking more questions, and so I made that transition as I've gone through my career to become a little different, and learning to presentations. I get it. I mean, I used to be afraid to stand up in front of a group of people, okay? And most people are. And, the more you do it, really, the better off you will be, the more comfortable you get. And I remember even back in public school, you go on stage, and I remember the teachers used to say, look at the clock all the way out on the other side of the wall. Just look at that. Don't look at people, just look at the clock, okay? Because once you look at a person, they'll make a funny face at you, or you might say something you shouldn't say. But it's telling that story. People will relate to you by telling a story of what you've done, what you've occurred, what happened to you in life, and the story is going to be relevant to what your topic is as well. So that's also the other aspect of opening yourself up a little bit to build that trust, and that gets that audience also engaged.
Right. I mean, so let's say you're there and you're doing a webinar, and you're sharing your story, you're sharing who you are, you're relating to people, and let's say you're not getting a lot of engagement. Like, is there anything that you can even do to recover from that? Are you just you just got to watch the ship slowly sink at that point, or what's our situation here, Jeff?
So if you feel that you're not getting the audience and you're talking too much, which is really what's going to happen, it's time to kind of just back up. Okay, let me ask a question to the audience, whatever that question is. Okay, and you should have always 5 or 6 questions prepared on the topic. Okay, so with us, I would be able to pull up a question on screen and say, hey, look, I'd love to have some of you be able to, here's a question we're putting on screen, put your answers in there, and get the audience getting involved. If they're not involved, or every 3 minutes to 5 minutes, it's time for you to stop talking, do something to get your audience involved, whether it's an animation, whether it's a video, whether it's a poll question, a yes/no question, or a right/wrong answer question, or I bring my gallery around me to kind of bring everyone back together again. There's many things you could do to catch yourself, so to speak, before you begin to lose the audience, or if you lost the audience, you got to bring them back in with something powerful like a question. And if you ask a question, stop talking.
Yeah. It's hard for some of us to do, Jeff. This is all we do is talk. So, I mean, I get that side of it too, where it's like, especially if you're really passionate about what you're delivering, you're wanting people to have that information, right? Like, we're excited about it. We want it to be out there. And so it can be hard for us to just pause, take a breath, ask a question, maybe listen. That's the other part of communication that sometimes we forget about, right? And so I think it can be challenging for us to stop and just pause for a minute. Have you ever had that for yourself, where maybe you're uncomfortable with the silence? Because I see that as challenging for other people as well, even as we're talking about doing shows and stuff too.
Yeah. Yes, there are times I feel uncomfortable where I don't think I'm getting the engagement that I want to should be having from people, or so throw a little humor in, and hey folks, come on, let's go. Let's answer the questions here. Let's get some interaction going. Love to have your feelings on things. If someone have a question, unmute yourself and let's ask a question. Okay, so I'll go bold at times and just go and ask for the interaction, okay, and to get someone to unmute. The other, you asked earlier, one of the biggest mistakes are, I mean, a lot of times people will say, I want you to hold your questions till the end. Why? I mean, 10 minutes in, people start having questions. I'll ask, anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
Okay. It's an opportunity to understand what your audience is feeling, what they're experiencing, what questions that they have. Maybe you missed conveying something and they're unclear. So, there's nothing wrong with taking questions within 10 minutes of doing your webinar. Any questions out there? Very simple to ask. Either put it into chat or raise your hand. And if it's a great question, if they're using our program, I can actually click on it and bring it right on screen. So the entire audience can actually also see that question in case they actually kind of zoned out a little bit from the hearing perspective. So that's powerful as well, because like you mentioned earlier, people are visual and they're auditory.
Right. Yeah, I think it's important to continue on having those things on the screen. You've mentioned several things. You've talked about things coming on the screen. You've talked about images, things like that. Now, I haven't used Zoom in a very long time for many reasons, but I haven't used it. And so are these things that are part of Zoom now, or is it part of your software with Engaging Webinars?
It's part of our software within Engaging Webinars. So we've created an app that kind of plugs into Zoom, Teams, and Meet, and some other programs as well. But it's more powerful with Zoom because of their technology and their structure that we're able to utilize. Also a Stream Deck that makes your presenting more of a push button environment than having to go click.
Right.
So it's a technology that makes presentations a lot smoother. I'm not worrying about moving my mouse around and trying to find, how to share my screen or how to share music or things like that. I can do that really just by pressing the button, and I'm on my PowerPoint or I'm on my iPad.
Is it really as easy as just pressing a button, Jeff, or are you messing with us right now? Because I think we sometimes we have our friends, the tech challenge friends that come and check us out here. So it's showing the buttons here, and that's your stream deck. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I'm showing you.
And so people that are tech challenged should not be afraid of this.
Correct. We train you on how to do this and how to be able to navigate. That's part of what our services as well. And what's on the buttons, they're graphical. So if I want to go to my PowerPoint, for example, I can click and I can see it's my PowerPoint button. So I'm going to click on my PowerPoint button. If I want to go to what we call a gallery view, where I'm in the middle and all the people are all around me.
Yeah.
And that's really a cool look. I just click on the icon that looks just like my gallery. And I like to have people think about it. It's your favorites, just like you have your favorite on your browser. You have your favorite buttons. Press the button, and there you go.
Yeah, it really is. It's easy, and you've made it like nice with little pictures. So it's very elementary. I feel like, to just because sometimes we need that. We need to baby ourselves when we're afraid of things, And so I like the little picture idea. Sugar honey iced tea. By the way, now I'm thirsty. Thank you for your name. I agree. Invite questions in the chat or raise hand to unmute. Like, encouraging that engagement, I think, is so important as we're continuing this conversation. And also, so you've got the software. Do you take people take us through when someone's ready to get the software and they're like, okay, I know I need to be more engaging in my webinars and the presentations I'm making. Do you take them through training? Walk us through what that looks like when someone decides that they need to make a change in what they're presenting.
Yes, so we would obviously, we would take them through a presentation so they could see some of the scenes that we do and the animation that we provide. And then what we do, it's a one-to-one training. So we push out to you our programs, and then we teach you how to customize what we call scenes. And we train you on how to use the Stream Deck as well. And then the other part of this is it's coaching. So we will work with you for your first webinar on setting up how to do a more engaging webinar. Or if you had done the webinar, let's say a few weeks ago, we'll review it. And if you want to do that same webinar again, but incorporate the new features, we'll watch and critique that webinar, provide you
nice
feedback on suggestions, if you would, and how to make it more engaging, and and how to create an engaging webinar. So it's presentation coaching, as I like to phrase it, as well as creating a more engaging webinar.
Right. I think it's so important to include that coaching aspect, because a lot of times I mean me. I've got this grand idea, right? So I want to do something very similar to how I started this show, but I didn't know what I was doing. Like, I got what someone said I needed, and then there I was making mistakes for years and years and years and no progress. And so I think that it's important to include that coaching. We do the same thing here with when someone onboards for a show, because I've been a part of a network before where they tell you, okay, here's what you need, now go have a show. Well, what happens when things come up, or what if how someone else does it doesn't work for me? And so you have like this process where you're showing them what to do. Do you continue to work with them and to like hone those skills as they present and learn, how to use the software?
Typically, it's a 90-day coaching kind of a program, but with 1 year full of support. So if we come out with updates, or if someone has questions, or, with all due respect, something breaks for whatever reason, they played around with the software and doesn't work anymore. So we have that year-long type of support as well. If someone wants a longer coaching time frame, yeah, we can definitely work that out. If they want 2 webinars, we can work it out. The more often you, obviously, like anything else, the more you practice, the more you do, and you use it, you get better at it, you get smoother at it. My first time, I wasn't, as proficient as I am at it today.
Yeah.
No different than doing a podcast or doing a live interview or
I don't watch
streaming.
season 1 for a reason, my friends. Okay.
But if you, to me, it serves many purposes. One, it presents a growth for you personally on how to present better, and it provides you that confidence that you're looking for when you're doing a webinar, because now you're going to feel more confident of changing screens, interacting with the audience, engaging with them. And, little by little, that confidence will continue to rise. And if you're in a corporation and then people start noticing what you're doing on your presentation, you're going to become that go-to person. Hey, that was really a great presentation. Train me, help me do that. And I've seen it where it's helped people, in their career path to get promoted too.
Right. Talk to us about some of the different capabilities that the software actually has. And because I think that there's, like I said, a lot of times, even whether we're talking about webinars or doing a show or anything like that, a lot of times people think I'll just get it and go, but not really know all that's available there to use. So tell us about some of the features. What makes it different than just having a webinar just on straight Zoom?
So one of the things we talked about was bringing things to life on screen, right? So one of the things you might want to know from your audience, depending on what you're selling, quite honestly, is, maybe are you a Windows user or are you an Apple user? So type into chat, yes, you're a Windows user, or no, you're an Apple user. So right then we have a little wheel that will start giving the percentages of yes and no. So if 85% of the people are Windows, 15% of them are Apple, you now have a good idea of what your audience makeup is from a computer perspective, okay? Or if you're trying to be able to learn something from your audience, or you have a question of how many webinars do you do on a monthly basis, 1 to 10 is A, 11 through 20 is B, so forth and so on, and you have other answers. So you're getting information from your audience. At the end of the day, for me and for everyone, a webinar serves two purposes. One is for you to provide information to the attendees. That's what they're there for. But the other thing you want to do is you want to get information about your audience. Okay? And that's also a missing link of most presentations. So the more I can learn about you, the better off I'm going to be in my follow-up, because now I know something about you. I understand your environment. I understand what you're doing. I understand what you're looking for. I'm kind of, with all due respect, qualifying you a little bit,
Right.
as whether or not you're a good prospect for me or you're not. And then when you get to that call to action at the end, which a lot of people don't do,
Yeah.
I know more about my people that attended on my webinar based upon what the answers are, because I can save my chat. And now I have I know how people answer the questions. Right.
And these questions you're asking, you use the word qualifying, which many of us that have been in sales at one point or another in our lives know that term. But I think a lot of people get scared of that. Like they feel some kind of way about being prospected or, qualified or whatever else. But I actually really like that. I prefer when someone qualifies me for whatever they've got going on, because I don't know if any of you have ever attended a webinar or even a one-on-one where you get an email back, like let's say they're good presenters and they follow up with you, and you get this email that has nothing to do with you, like has nothing to do with where you're at. It feels very impersonal, and it's not even the webinar that turns you off. It's the quality of the follow-up afterwards, because you weren't properly qualified. So I think people should stop being afraid or turned off by being qualified, because ultimately that's your matchmaking. That's what needs to happen in order for you to match to the right clients, right?
100% correct. Yeah. I mean, as I said, it's a two-way street. You want to provide that information, or you want to get information back, because one thing we don't have unlimited amount is of time. So we don't know, with all due respect, when our expiration dates are, as I like to phrase it. So time is our most valuable asset at the end of the day. So if someone can, upon expression, qualify me up front, or I can qualify them that they are a better fit for my program or not, it's just more efficient. It's more, it saves you a bunch of time. And honestly, it's going to save you money, really, at the end of the day, in addition to the time.
Right, right. So a lot of people see webinars as just another marketing tool, like just one other thing. I don't have time to do it. It's a lot. But you see them, I know, as something much bigger than that. Is there a mindset shift that people need to have in order to turn their presentations into more than just a presentation, a transformational shift? Like, is there something that needs to happen with people to get out of this mindset of, well, it's just another tool, it's just another way to give information?
So to me, I mean, we've been talking about webinars, right? But let me talk about any virtual presentation you are doing in your company, or any type of Zoom call, even on one-to-one basis with somebody that you're doing. So I've spoken to HR directors who are doing interviewing and want to show things about their company that they have on the screen, where I can highlight information. If I want to be able to do an all-employee meeting and everyone's remote, but I also want to get feedback from them, it's all part of a virtual presentation. So it's not just a webinar. It's not that I always want to sell something, so to speak. It's also about helping your clients be able to understand something. So if I'm going back to my financial world, I'm an accountant, or I'm doing insurance and I'm trying to show someone an illustration, I can bring it on screen and I can highlight information, I can circle information, and it gives me that feeling of I'm almost sitting right across the desk from them, because that's what I would do if I was doing it face to face, and no different than I'm doing it now virtually. So it's not just a webinar. It's not always when you have to sell something to somebody, or you want to sell something to somebody. It's we're all on Zoom calls these days, with all due respect, and the tools that we're talking about can easily be used on a one-to-one basis as well as in a group basis.
Yeah, I think it all ties together. Like, even doing an interview, a show like this, a presentation, a webinar, a class, a workshop, anything like that, it all ties together in some way and helps us to ultimately, I think, become better communicators, and to know our clients better, and to find those clients, because if you're not listening, you don't know what's going on. It's just what it is. Listen, we're going to take one, or did you want to say something before we go a quick break?
I was just going to say one quick thing.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we're all in sales, whether or not you want to believe it or not. Okay, every day you are selling something. You are selling yourself, or you're selling your product, or you're selling your service. Go back to my bar situation that we talked about earlier. Yeah, I'm selling myself to whoever I'm trying to talk to, right? Okay, and that's at the end of the day. When I ask the question, what do you do in life? Are you a salesperson? Most of the people don't raise their hands, but in reality, we're all in sales.
It's true. Even as a parent, you are in sales because you're always trying to convince your kids that they need to do something that they don't want to do. So there's that. All right, guys, we're going to take one more quick break. And when we come back, we're going to have a couple more questions for Jeff, figure out how you can work with him and get your hands on some engaging webinars. And we'll be right back after this.
On April 4th, I was 90 years old, grandson of slaves. My parents were first generation free. A long time ago, I embraced the definition of love. Love is the experience of well-being. And a friend is one who mutually shares that experience of well-being with you, which opens up almost infinite creative possibilities.
Welcome back to the Breakthrough Show. We're here today with Jeff Brandeis. We hope you've seen the Friendship Paradox film. If you have not, please visit thefriendshipparadox.com. You can watch the entire film. You can donate. You can leave a review. Lots of fun stuff there. So go check that out, thefriendshipparadox.com. We have been talking today with Jeff Brandeis, returning guest. We love to check in with our friends who've been here before about why engagement matters and all of that. And talking about his new company, Engaging Webinars, which is really super fun and very timely. We've had a lot of very timely conversations recently, Jeff, and you're right on time with the importance of engagement and going deeper than just face value with those who we'd like to have as our clients. I think it's so important. So if there's someone who is brand new to webinars, what is one piece of advice that you would give them if they're just starting out?
I'll go back to break through those fears. Okay, this is the Breakthrough Show. So break through those barriers of being intimidated and being concerned about doing a webinar. Get yourself on camera. We're all doing FaceTime these days. Okay, you're FaceTiming with friends, families, whatever. Honestly, in so many different ways, it's the same thing. You're talking to a camera. You just got other people on the other side of the lens watching you, but just get up and do it. It's going to enlighten you. It's going to provide you a new sense of freedom, personality, and it's a great way to really meet new people and be able to grow your business.
I love that. I love that. So for any of maybe those who are more tech challenged or that maybe they're not so confident yet, they've listened to us talk today and they're like, I don't know, that sounds like a lot of things, a lot of bells and whistles. I don't know if I need them. Do you feel like with the Engaging Webinars, the software that you all use, is it a less is more situation in the beginning? Like, do you suggest that people like maybe pick one thing that they want to shift and then grow over time? How does that look from when people are starting out?
So when we start out, it's, with all due respect, it's like riding a bicycle. Okay, you start with your training wheels, and you maybe take one wheel off, then you take the second, and then you begin to run. Okay, so we do provide you our full capabilities, but initially we'll focus on 2 or 3 of the key features that we believe would make your webinars different. Okay, and make them engaging. And we take you through how to master those. And really, once you get those wheels, the training wheels off, moving on to the next levels, it's really simple because everything is really push button and it's all there for you. And you begin to play with it and you go, holy mackerel, this isn't bad at all. I can ride my bike and my parents aren't chasing me anymore. I got my freedom. I mean, that is awesome. Okay. It's such a great feeling when you begin to master, these new techniques. And you do that breakthrough on yourself, on your own. And I mean, we all remember, our children riding their bike and getting off those training wheels, right? That smile is just, it's something that lasts forever. And when you master these skills, I continue to grow. You always continue to learn new things. And if you're open to doing that, this is something that would definitely fit right up your alley.
Love it. I love it. And what I noticed about what you said is we take you through. This isn't a situation where you're going to be shoved the software and then goodbye. See you later. Have a nice life. I love that you guys are taking that personal approach and walking people through and giving them real ideas based on what they're already doing of how they could just tweak it and make it a little bit better and grow.
Correct. This is a done with you program. We probably have all purchase programs and expecting it to be plug and play and, just follow the videos, right? And then 20 hours later, you're watching the video and you go, oh my God, I can't even do what was in the first video, let alone the second. No, this is, you're on with us. We're working with you. We're going to ask you to, what questions you think is appropriate. We'll show you how to update the program, how to do fun things. I have a couple of very favorite animation scenes where one is, we spend so much time and money in getting people to our webinar, but if you're not engaging them, it's like throwing money down the drain.
Yeah.
And we actually have an animation where the money's coming down, going into the drain. You hear the water splashing.
Yeah.
It's you're visually and you're hearing it splash, and you're seeing the money coming down. And it's just like you're doing right now. You're smiling, but if you actually saw it, you'd be laughing. And
Right.
bringing those type of things into your presentation that makes you also have fun doing it, because you're setting it up with a line and then you're showing it, and the people just start to smile, and then you have them engaged.
Right. It's nice to see that too. I'm so glad we're in an age where we are on camera more often. It's one of the reasons why we focus on video shows here on the network as opposed to audio podcasts, because I think it's important sometimes to see the expression on someone's face, like see how they're reacting to something, how they're processing. You could tell there's so many little nuances that you can pick up by just seeing someone's face, and how they're reacting. And when we've got those fun things on the screen, the polls, the graphics, all of that stuff, it just makes, and I think it makes it more fun for us as presenters too. Like, it's so boring sometimes to just come on and spew information. I like GIFs. I like to pause and have a dance party. Those are things that I like to do. So I think it's great to be able to do that with engaging webinars. I'm going to give you the floor, Jeff, to finish off the show. I would love for you to tell everybody where they can find you, how they can work with you, and then, of course, anything else that you would like for them to know as we close out today.
Thank you, Jessica. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for listening as well. Everyone, you can go to engagingwebinars.com, and on our website there, you can actually fill out and request a guide on how to do more engaging webinars. So we kind of show you some of the things from a visual perspective that you can begin to implement right off the bat. And that's a free guide, and it's available for our listeners to go and download. I'm also on LinkedIn. You just go look for Jeff Brandeis, and Brandeis. And for those of you who would like to have a meeting, go to www.speakwithjeff.com is my calendar link. It's a complimentary call. Just be able to experience some of the things that I talked about. I'll show you some of the graphics, the questions, the polling things that we do. And I'll love to learn more about you at the end of the day and see if we can work together and we are a fit. So those are the three ways that you can reach out: engagingwebinars.com, go to LinkedIn and connect with me through Jeff Brandeis. And again, if you like to meet, love to meet you. Go to speakwithjeff.com and schedule a call.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for coming back and sharing with us what you're doing. And I will say, on a personal note, it's been several years since Jeff and I met originally. And one thing that I think is such a benefit in this situation, I've met other people that have done things in the world of webinars. And I think you having the experience, Jeff, of sales and finance, it brings even more to the table. It doesn't mean that those things that you were passionate about before have ceased to exist. I think it
Correct.
just adds to what you're doing now. And so thank you so much, Jeff, for coming back and for sharing your wisdom with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Jessica. It was fun as always. Great seeing you again.
You too. For those of you watching, if you're ready to transform your own presentations, make sure to connect with Jeff in the links provided in the show notes. Whether you need coaching, strategy, or just some fresh ideas to make your webinar stand out, Jeff is the person to turn to. And of course, the breakthroughs don't stop here. Next Friday, March 14th, we're diving into a completely different but equally powerful conversation as we welcome Karen Ramsey Smith to the show. Karen will be sharing her personal breakthroughs, and we'll be diving deep into something I know that many of you will love: your soul radiance. Be sure to subscribe, set a reminder, and join us next week for another amazing episode of The Breakthrough Show. As always, thank you all so much for being here today. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas. This has been Jeff Brandeis, and we will see you guys next time on an all-new episode of The Breakthrough. We'll see you soon, everybody. Bye.